Afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya McMillan. I am an admissions coordinator here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education for the Doctor of Education program.
Lastly, presenting today, we also have Assistant Director of Financial Aid, Jen Coveney-Smith, alumni of the EdD program, Brianne Roos, and lastly, Professor and Interim Director of the EdD program, Dr. Camille Bryant. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute right now. Please have your mic on mute at all times during the presentation. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your questions in the chat box and Dr. Bryant, Tanya, and I will read and answer your questions. Next, I would like to share the agenda for today's presentation. Kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Dr. Bryant will introduce herself and go over details of the Doctor of Education program. We also have an alumni speaker. She will talk about her experience in the EdD program. And lastly, we will cover admissions requirements and financial aid and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. We are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. And lastly, SOE has collaborative partnerships with Urban Teachers and Teach for America. For school enrollment, we have approximately 2,465 students, and we offer more than 30 graduate programs, which includes doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. We have a strong alumni network of over 22,000. At this time, I am going to hand the floor over to Dr. Bryant. She will introduce herself and present on the Doctor of Education program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Camille Bryant. I am an associate professor and the interim director of the EdD program at Johns Hopkins. I am trained as a research methodologist with interests in research method self-efficacy, particularly for graduate students, program evaluation, and how contextual factors and the implementation of those factors has an influence on educational programs. So in the next slide, you'll see a few pictures from our orientation residency, which is held every summer. It's generally face-to-face. Of course, this year it was virtual because of COVID. But these pictures, I think, just give you a sense of some of the activities that students engage in, some of our students, the makeup of our students. And I'll talk more about orientation residency in subsequent slides. But first, I really wanted to talk about the vision and mission of the EdD program. Our vision is to have a broad impact. And so being able to serve students across the globe helps to fulfill that vision. So we want to impact complex educational problems across the globe. We do that by preparing scholar practitioners who consider social justice issues as they lead change within educational contexts. So in order to fulfill that vision, the EdD program is designed to prepare an exceptional core of scholar practitioners, both nationally and internationally, who examine and intervene in educational problems of practice. And they do that with reliance on their expertise as practitioners and a curriculum that emphasizes transdisciplinary perspectives, systems thinking, improvement science, rigorous methodology, and social justice. And that's all for the purpose of improving educational outcomes. So students in our program begin as practitioner scholars, and our goal is for them to leave as scholar practitioners, where research really is the driver for how they think about, explore, assess, and aim to solve educational problems. So this program really is ideal for experienced practitioners who want to examine real-world problems of practice within their own professional practices. It's ideal for students who want to create powerful interventions that are based on research that's going to inform them about what works. And it's also ideal for those individuals who want to be able to rigorously evaluate any changes that are made within their context. So here's our program at a glance. Students must have a master's degree where they've earned between 30 or 36 credits, and that's applied to the 90 credits, that's the minimum of 90 graduate credits that's required for our program. So essentially up to 36 credits are automatically transferred from your master's program. They're counted towards those 90 graduate credits. There's also the potential to apply an additional 6 credits towards the degree, and those extra 6 credits can only be applied towards elective courses. So a minimum of 48 credits must be completed at JHU. So when you apply to the EdD program, you will apply to a specialization within our program. And specializations do vary by cohort. So for the fall 2021 cohort, these specializations include entrepreneurial leadership and education, mind, brain, and teaching, and instructional design and online teaching and learning. And for those who have gone through our MBT certificate, those students have to select a specialization other than the MBT program if you're applying to our EdD program. So some of the features of our program are that it's rigorous, it's relevant, it allows students to develop a powerful intervention. Our program is typically completed between 3 and 4 years. It's also an online asynchronous program with some synchronous support, and the dissertation is taken up within the coursework. So coursework is comprised of credits taken within these areas. So we have the Foundations of Education courses, the Applied Research and Evaluation courses, credits that are related specifically to the specialization that you're in, and then the Applied Dissertation Research credits. So within the program, there are transition points where students demonstrate their competency mastery with written and oral assessments. So I'm going to talk through what these transition points are. The first transition point is the year 1 paper, and this is completed at the end of the first summer that you're in the program. The year 1 paper consists of chapters 1 and 2 of the dissertation. And this is where students examine factors that are related to their problem of practice using the literature and an empirical study that's conducted within their context of professional practice. The next transition point is the comprehensive examination, and this is an oral examination following year 2 of the program. And the comprehensive examination is focused on the core courses. The dissertation proposal is the next transition point, and this is another oral presentation, an oral defense, where students defend chapters 1 and 4 of the dissertation. So here they discuss the literature related to the problem of practice, the findings from their empirical study within their context, so chapters 1 and 2 of the dissertation or that year 1 paper. It's also where they discuss the second literature review related to interventions and a proposed evaluation for examining the implementation and outcomes of the intervention that they're going to conduct within their context. The final transition point is the final dissertation. And this is again defended orally, where students present chapters 1 through 5 of the dissertation. So I'll talk a little bit more about the elements of the dissertation in the next slide. So the final and most significant requirement for the EdD degree is the applied dissertation. And this again is chapters 1 through 5 of the dissertation. And this really is the culmination of independently completed but closely interrelated projects. It includes that first literature review about the problem of practice and those contributing factors of that problem, and the empirical study of those factors within your particular context. And again, these are the components of the year 1 paper or chapters 1 and 2 of the dissertation. So you're really working on that as soon as you start the program. The remaining chapters are comprised of, again, another literature review where you examine interventions that are going to address those contributing factors that were determined to be salient from that empirical study that you did within your context. And you're going to use that understanding of the intervention literature to design an intervention for your context. And you're going to study the implementation and the effects of the intervention and how they actually address the factors and the problem of practice. So in a nutshell, the goal of the applied dissertation really is to study the problem deeply within your context, and then to develop a targeted intervention that's going to address the problem. So this really does require that you have a strong understanding of the literature related to your problem of practice, that you have a research methods toolkit to empirically examine the problem and the intervention, so that you can hopefully make those educational changes that we want from our students. So the program is designed such that you're working on the chapters within your coursework across the 3 years. The focus is on a contextualized problem of practice within your context of your professional practice. And the applied dissertation really is designed for students to make significant change within their professional practice. And then there are also implications for policy changes. So in order for students to meet the requirements of the program to successfully navigate these transition points, all leading to the completion of the applied dissertation, it's really important that we as a program are intentional about the support that we provide students to meet all of these benchmarks. So the support structures of the program that aid in program completion include the online orientation during the summer prior to when you would matriculate in the fall. And so this would introduce you to the technology of the program, the library resources that are available, research methods, foundational topics, and training on research ethics, a course tour, just to name a few, to orient you to what you can expect in the program. There's also the face-to-face orientation in July, as well as a yearly residency in Baltimore. And this is where you meet with students in your cohort, you meet with faculty, you engage in workshops on various topics, all done to support your work in the program. There is also a faculty cohort lead to help you with navigating your courses, to provide general support when you enter the program. And you're also assigned an advisor who begins working with you during your first semester, your first year of the program, during your second semester. And they really are the content experts. They're going to provide feedback to you and direction as you complete the dissertation components within your coursework. And that advisor is also your dissertation chair. We also have a dissertation clinic, and this is to provide research methods support So here there's a site devoted to a host of resources that have been developed by the EdD methods faculty to help you and help to strengthen your skill set in terms of methods. And then we also have the writing clinic, and this is where students receive writing help through one-on-one consultations and support, as well as synchronous sessions. There are also library webinars. We have wonderful librarians who do webinars on things like developing the literature review. They also do one-on-one consultations to help students find any resources that would be helpful to you as you are going through this program. And then finally, there are program and cohort sites, and this is where we communicate relevant information. You would receive a lot of announcements through these sites, and those sites also provide additional resources that are going to be helpful to you as a student in our program. So one of the things that I talked about a little earlier was our orientation residency in the summer. Again, this is in late July, and this is just a picture of one of the cohorts, I believe last year when we did the face-to-face orientation. So the online orientation is mandatory for incoming students who are going to matriculate in the fall. Again, as I said earlier, the online orientation really is to help you to acclimate to some of the things that are going to be expected of you in our program, and things that you'll be required to use, like the technology and the library resources, etc. So this opens mid-May for students, and it must be completed by the face-to-face orientation residency in order to remain in the program. All new students must also attend the face-to-face orientation that's held in July. This past year, of course, it was held virtually because of COVID, but we're hoping to resume the face-to-face experience in 2021. And this is a 2 to 3 day event. And for students who cannot attend, they can complete the sessions virtually, but it really is, I think, just an exciting time where students are able to meet with their cohorts, meet with faculty, meet with advisors, and just engage in various sessions and activities that are all aimed to support your experience in our program. So during your second and third year in the program, you would attend residency, and this is held at the same time during orientation. So what's nice about this is that as a new student going to the orientation, you're able to interact and engage with students from older cohorts who are attending residency. And then when you're a second or third year, you'll be able to offer advice for those incoming students, which students always find really helpful. So orientation, again, it just allows for program year specific learning. It helps to jumpstart students' work each year. It allows for those face-to-face interactions with faculty and other students. And like I said, it really is just an exciting time of engagement and learning and activities. So finally, I wanted to provide you with a sense of some of the dissertation studies from students in our program. Past dissertation studies have focused on a variety of problems of practices and topic areas. So you can see just from these dissertation titles that our students really do come from many different contexts. And even though they might be coming from different contexts and different careers, they're all aiming to address an educational problem. And they're addressing that problem through the applied dissertation. And so it's really our hope that the tools that we provide to our students allow them to examine a variety of contextual problems that you're going to address by using these targeted interventions that promote educational change. So when students leave our program, we know that they're going to be faced with many other types of problems or practices, and so, or many other types of problems within their context. And so it's our hope that you're using kind of the framework for how we taught you how to look at a problem, examine a problem deeply, how to develop a targeted intervention that allows you to make changes within your educational context beyond your time in the program.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. This is odd doing it without seeing you. My name is Brianne Roos, and this is fun to be able to share this with you. I just graduated from the program in May, and across the board, it was really an outstanding experience. So everything Dr. Bryant is saying is true. It's such a strong community of scholars and practitioners, and one of the best parts about it is that you'll meet people from all over the world who are all related to education in various ways. So I'm not a trained educator. I'm a speech language pathologist by training, and I do teach, but my background is in medical speech, so very different. My day job, like it says, is that I teach at Loyola University, Maryland, which is just up the street from Hopkins. I'm also married with 2 kids who are super active, and I put that in there just to let you know that pretty much everybody in this program has a lot going on. So we know what it's like to balance family and work, and now COVID. And the faculty understand that as well. So you all have a lot going on, and that's definitely recognized. I selected Hopkins for a couple of reasons. I only looked at online programs, and that was because I have so many demands at home with my family that I just didn't want to be out of the house any longer than I had to be. So I knew I would be busy with class in the house, but that seemed more realistic than commuting to a campus. So I was only looking for online, and I loved the variety of specializations that were offered and the accessibility of faculty. I was intrigued by the embedded dissertation. I loved that idea of kind of getting into the work right away, and you really do get into the work right away. I mean, it's immediate upon your acceptance to the program, which is exciting. And of course, it's 3 years. I mean, it's 3 very intense years, but you can do it in 3, and that's pretty great. My dissertation was all about stress in undergraduate students studying speech, language, hearing sciences. And that was a very real, is a very real problem of practice in my context. And I'm very happy to have such a deep understanding of that before COVID, and certainly now with COVID. It's really quite relevant across the board for us. So overall, this program really does develop you as scholar practitioners. You come away with a really deep knowledge of the core course content, which for me was fascinating because I had never had that before. I didn't have a foundation in education. So now I know quite a bit about that, as well as research methods. And I feel equipped and ready to engage in more research. And I'm already doing that. I've had a couple of publications already, and am involved with some other projects at my university that I know would not have happened without this kind of training. So the course sequence is really well designed and structured, and it complements the dissertation all along the way. And I appreciated that throughout the program. Another thing that I think sets Hopkins apart is this really rigorous dissertation. It is the real deal, and people think like, oh, but it's online. It's very rigorous. It's quite a legitimate document that you'll come out with at the end. And I really appreciate having to go through that process, because now I feel ready to do more research on my own. And with that, it really does serve as a catalyst for lifelong learning. I mean, truly, it's a cliche, I guess, but I feel like I will contribute to education through research and improved practice because of my coursework and because of the relationships that I was able to develop through this community of scholars.
Thank you, Brianne. Now we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. Applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on our website. Keep in mind there is an $80 application fee. Next, you will need an updated resume highlighting your educational and professional background. Your personal statement should not exceed more than 750 words, describing a problem of practice relevant to your current context of professional practice. Be sure to align your problem of practice with one of the 3 specializations. Moving on, you should submit 3 letters of recommendations. These letters should include at least the following: a professor you've worked with at your master's program who can speak on your competency to conduct rigorous scholarly work, and a professional recommender who can attest to your qualifications to pursue a doctorate degree, and this recommender would support your problem of practice. Please keep in mind you are able to submit 3 professional recommenders if you have been out of school for a while. And one final note is to make sure one of your professional recommenders is your executive sponsor. Your executive sponsor should be someone who would be an asset in helping you gain access to data and/or participants related to your problem or practice. If you're self-employed, your executive sponsor might be a person of authority with the agency you would like to work with to collect related data to earning your doctoral degree. Applicants are required to identify and submit the name of an executive sponsor within the online application form. Next, the GRE is not a requirement for admissions consideration to the EdD program. It is optional for an applicant to submit a GRE test score as part of the application. However, submission of a GRE test score is an opportunity for an applicant to present additional evidence of the quantitative and verbal skills required for the doctoral level study. Official transcripts. We need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. And lastly, all applicants will be asked to complete a virtual interview upon submitting their application. The EdD application is open for fall 2021 admission. You will be able to find the application on the school's website. The application deadline is January 6th, and any supporting material, for example, your official transcripts, letters of recommendation, virtual interview, must be in by January 22nd. Applications will be reviewed from February to mid-March. Finally, admissions decisions will be released mid-March. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score. If your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. Additional information can be found on our website. And now I'm going to hand the slide next. And now I'm going to hand the slide over to my colleague, Jen.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jennifer Coveney. I'm the Assistant Director for Financial Aid at the Johns Hopkins University School of Education. The slide we're looking at right now is detailing the cost of attendance, the tuition and fees that would be part of your cost of attendance. So here the cost per credit is $1,531. And as you can see above that, the number of courses you would be taking would be 18, and it would be 3 credits per course. There is also a technology fee of $15 per credit and a registration fee of $175 per semester. Okay, now as far as financial aid and scholarships, students in the Doctor of Education, the EdD program, can be eligible for federal financial aid. Federal financial aid for graduate students is limited to federal student loans. Graduate students are eligible for up to $20,500 per academic year in the federal direct unsubsidized Stafford loan. If additional funds are needed, graduate students can apply for the federal direct Graduate Plus loan. The Plus loan is a credit-based loan, which means they would do a credit check to determine eligibility. Only students who are US citizens or permanent residents are eligible for federal student loans. Also, to be eligible for federal aid, students must be enrolled at least half-time, and that would be a minimum of 2 courses. Half-time at the School of Education is 4.5 credits or more. So by taking 2 classes, that will give you 6 credits and would make you eligible for federal aid. To apply for federal aid, you would complete the FAFSA, and that stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. We encourage you to complete the FAFSA at the same time that you're applying for admission. The FAFSA can be completed online at studentaid.gov. Please note that the FAFSA application for the 2021-22 academic year will become available in October. In addition to the federal student loans, there are also institutional scholarships available. There are 2 different types of scholarships that we offer. The first would be the School of Education endowed scholarships. Those scholarships do have an additional application form that you would complete in order to be considered for those scholarships. Please note that the funding is limited for the endowed scholarships, and the awards on average range from about $500 to $1,500 per semester and are applied to tuition expenses. In addition to the endowed scholarships, the EdD program also has an EdD scholarship. There is not an additional application form for that scholarship. Students are awarded that based directly on the information provided in your admissions application. And those decisions are made by the EdD program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. If you have any questions relating to your application, please contact Tanya McMillan, and any program-related questions, please contact Kathy Chow and Dr. Bryant, and their contact information is on this slide. Thank you for attending the Doctor of Education virtual webinar. At this time, Dr. Bryant, Tanya, and I would like to open up the floor for questions. Again, please type your questions in the chat box. So the very first question we have from Kimberly is, when will the urban education specialization be offered again?
That's a great question. So the MBT and the ELE specializations are offered every year. The 3rd specialization varies by cohort, and it just depends on what we think is most relevant at the time, but we're most likely will have the urban specialization will be available for maybe the 2022 cohort, but that's not finalized.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. Our next question is from John. He asked a 2-part question. First, what is the fastest record time possible to complete the minimum of 48 credits for the doctoral program?
So it would be 3 years. So students aren't able to kind of fast track through our program. That's for a variety of reasons. One is that the dissertation is embedded within the coursework, and so it really is important that you go through the sequence as it's offered in the program. And I would say that's the main reason. Everything else is kind of related to that, so hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you. The second part to John's questions are research papers / dissertations designed to contribute to theory or to practice solving specific practical problems? Are you there, Dr. Bryant?
I am sorry, I couldn't find my mute button again.
Oh, it's okay.
Yes, so that's a really great question. So our program is designed to inform practice. So it really is an applied approach to using the literature in an applied way. But that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities for theory. Within our program, theory is used primarily to better understand the problem of practice, to support your the methodology that you're using to understand those factors related to the problem, and to certainly understand how to intervene. But in terms of adding to existing theory, that is not the primary focus. However, I have seen students who, in addition to using their research to apply to practice, they are also able to think about theory and how to revise theory, or to think about it a little bit differently in order to continue to make educational change.
All right, so the next question we have is, my educational context is a math enrichment academy that I've been running for the last 10 years as founder, director, and teacher. After recently completing my master's at the University of Hong Kong, I've become aware of several potential problems of practice that interest me. So her question is, her context technically makes her the executive sponsor. So how would the sponsor form and third recommendation letter work?
That's a really good question. So if we would want our students to, so even if a student is maybe a CEO of an organization, we would still want them to find someone who can support them in gaining access to anything that they're going to need in order to successfully complete that research. I guess the other option, and Sion, you might be able to speak to this some too, is to perhaps have an additional academic recommendation, or a professional recommendation. Maybe that professional reference can act as an executive sponsor, given their role within your organization. But feel free to contact one of us so we can help you think a little bit more about that.
Okay, our next question. Where can we access some of the best sample dissertations of previous alumni of the EdD program?
So you would probably need to have access through a university library system. So our dissertations are published through our library, and so most students are able to access it through a university library system. I doubt that they will come up through a Google search and allow you to access it through through that means, but I would say the best is through a university library. Or if you want, you can always, if there is a certain specialization that you're interested in, feel free to email us, and we can provide you with at least a sample of a dissertation, maybe not the whole thing, but maybe a sample that will give you an idea of what our dissertations entail.
Thank you. Next question we have, do we need to identify faculty with aligned interests and contact them prior to applying?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, you would not need to do that. So we, as a program, match students with advisors based on your problem of practice. I will say, though, that even in matching our students, we always leave the ultimate decision up to the student and the advisor, and so, or potential advisor. So there's always a meeting between you two. You discuss kind of the expectations, how you might work together in terms of the advisor supporting you and how he or she would support you in your work and what you would need from an advisor. And then a final decision is made together. So even though there's a matching process, that doesn't mean that that person necessarily becomes your advisor. It may not work out. And so we would look for another advisor who aligns with your research topic.
Thank you. Our next question, I think you may have addressed some of this in the previous one, Dr. Bryant, but the question is, how will the committee work for online students? Do we have mentors from JHU or do we find professors wherever?
So I wouldn't say that there are mentors, but there are different types of supports that you'll have. So you will have the cohort lead as a first year student. You will have, most likely have Dr. Borkowski, who is really excellent in onboarding students and helping them to acclimate to our program. So that's kind of your first support person, your go-to person during really as soon as you accept admittance into the program. And then you'll also have your advisor who you'll be working with from your second semester of your first year. And that advisor is going to stay with you throughout your time in the program. And just kind of going back to the cohort lead, you will have a cohort lead every year in the program. So you'll have a second year cohort lead and a third year and beyond cohort lead. So those individuals really are there to support you, to guide you, to help you through all of the transition points. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, the next question we have from Beth is, how is JHU handling the residency this summer for students in the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this past summer, we just had residency about a week and a half ago, and it was virtual, and it was our first time doing the orientation residency virtually. And so next year, if you know, we're still in this age of the pandemic, then we'll do it virtually again, but we hope to have it face to face.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. The next question we have is this program only for cohorts who are in the education field?
Yeah, so many of our students come from a variety of backgrounds. Some have a business background, some have more of a medical background. It just really depends. But I think really what's common to all of them is that they're wanting to explore an educational problem of practice. And so we really do have students that come from a variety of backgrounds, a variety of occupations, with the similarity of exploring that educational problem.
Okay, next question we have is, could you please elaborate on how advisors and students are matched? If we establish a relationship with a professor who shares our interests in our first semester or before, are we able to have any input in the process?
Unfortunately, no. And we don't allow that just because students, especially new students, may not have an understanding of the capacity of that advisor. So while you might have a good relationship based on your interaction with them within a course, they may already have 8 or 9 advisees, and so they can't take on any more. But you may not know that, but the program would know that. and just for other reasons, maybe they just can't take on any more advisees. Maybe they have a grant or something else that is occupying their time. And so as the program, we match students based on the expertise of our faculty and the problems of practice that students are examining. And so we use that to match. And again, you still do have somewhat of a say in terms of the matching process. And if you feel like it's not going to work out, then we as the program still would choose someone else for you. So hopefully that answers your question.
The next question we have is about early childhood education. I'm assuming the person that inquired is asking about possible specializations or an ability to focus in this area.
Mm-hmm. So we don't have a specialization devoted to early childhood education. It doesn't mean that we don't have early childhood educators within our program, because we certainly do. So I think as a prospective student, just looking at the different specializations and what you do and what you're wanting to do with this degree, making the decision about whether or not one of those specializations aligns with your own goals as an educator.
The next question we have is again about residency. Are the residencies in person? As a public school employee, I go back to work in mid-July. And again, this is Dr. Brian answered this question. And Dr. Brian, if you want to just repeat it one more time, that'd be great.
Yeah, so it's generally face-to-face, if necessary. In our case, this past summer, because of COVID, it was virtual. But again, I will say that for students who cannot come, even if it is face-to-face, or even virtual, if you're not able to attend those live virtual sessions or face-to-face in-person sessions, you can watch the recordings after the orientation residency, so that you're still able to get all of the information that is needed for you to still be successful. And so we do allow that if you're not able to come to the face-to-face orientation residency.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. I do not have a background in education, but I have a background in public administration and policy. I'm looking to become a professor and continue working in community economic development area. So I guess maybe they're inquiring, is that background suitable for the program?
Yeah, so I would say I would have to know a little bit more about you, and more importantly, your problem of practice and what you're wanting to examine, because that is really going to be key in knowing if your problem of practice aligns with one of the specializations that we offer. So I would encourage you to either, you can reach out to us. It almost sounds like you might be aligned with somewhat to the ELE specialization, but again, I would have to know what your problem of practice is to help. But you can reach out and we can connect you with the specialization lead who can, you can have a conversation with to help, make that decision. But we do have students who do have come from a variety of backgrounds, but their problems of practice connect or align with one of the specializations that we offer.
Thank you. Next question, is there any guidance offered for developing a problem of practice? I have an area of interest and one where more research is needed.
I think the main thing is to think about what really interests you? What is going to hold your interest throughout these 3 years in the program? And does that interest align with one of the specializations in our program? I think that's going to be something that's really important, and it might help you if there are many things that you could potentially examine. It might help you to narrow your focus and thinking about both of those things. What interests you most, what best aligns with the specialization. For this program, we really do stress the applied piece. And so you want to make sure that it is a problem that really is relevant within your context. So we're not just adding to the literature, we're not just adding to theory. Those things are certainly applicable, but the main piece is that you are able to apply what you're learning in this program to make educational change. And so you want to keep that in mind as well as you're thinking about your problem of practice.
The next question, could you elaborate on the comprehensive exam after the second year, which will focus on the core courses?
Sure. There are core courses are the courses that all students in the program take during the first and second year of the program, dealing with theory and research methods, improvement science, the different approaches to education. So the different lenses in which we might look at the comprehensive examination is an exam that allows us to assess your competency in those core courses. So like I said earlier, it is an oral examination. You would study for that. You can start studying as early as you want, really, as early as you start the program, but it's after your second year in the program, once you completed all of those core courses, and it's generally held at the end of August with some kind of wiggle room around that. But so that's kind of what, hopefully that helps to give you kind of a broader perspective of what that exam entails.
The next question we have, this one's for you, Jen. Is there any scholarships available for this program?
Hello, thank you for the question. Sure. So when I was reviewing the financial aid, part of what I was speaking of were the scholarships that are available. So there are two different types of scholarships. There is the merit-based EdD scholarship that does not require any additional application. Students are considered for that at the time of admission. So your information will be reviewed, and the decisions are made directly by the EdD program. There is that scholarship, and then there are endowed scholarships. And so the endowed scholarships are the ones that range between about $500 to $1,500 per year, and there is a separate application form. The application form for the endowed scholarships won't be available until typically early in the new year. So around January, late January, early February of 2021 is when that application will become available. If you would like more information on that, we do have a section on grants and scholarships on our website, and you would get there by going to education admissions.jhu.edu. You would click admissions and financial aid, and then financial aid, and then you would click on grants and scholarships. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Next question we have, I've logged into the application system, but it's saying that the only application available is 2019-2020. Am I doing it wrong? I would say when you log into the application, please make sure that you go under the program details section of the application and click the drop down which indicates the fall 2021 cohort. If you are having further difficulty, please feel free to reach out to me, Tanya McMillan, on the contact information we shared, and I'll be happy to follow up with you. Okay, next question we have, let me check. If you hold a master's degree from Hopkins as well as a master's degree, oh, I'm sorry, my computer froze up. I apologize. 1 second. The question is, okay, there we go. I'm sorry about that. If you hold a master's degree from Hopkins as well as a master's degree from another institutions, can more credits transfer in? So with regard to transfer of credit, the maximum that comes in with your master's will be 36. For more to be considered, it's upon review. Usually it's at the doctoral level, and the maximum we would accept there would be an additional 6. But again, that would be upon review of all of your transcripts when your application is submitted.
Okay, we have reached 4 o'clock. I know that there are still additional questions. Please direct those questions to Tanya McMillan, admissions, and if it's program related, Kathy Chow and Dr. Brian, is there information on the slide? Thank you for attending the Doctor of Education virtual webinar. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.